What is going on, everyone? Another edition of Courtyard Mobility coming at you this Thursday morning. Okay, today we are going to be talking about a really important factor in our everyday lives, something that a lot of us might take for granted, and that is the importance of restoring rotation of the hip. Okay, so a lot of us are probably familiar with flexion and extension. We do a lot of movements in our gym routines that focus a lot on flexion and extension of the hip. Common example, if you're in the CrossFit scene, we do a lot of toes to bar and then deadlifts, okay? But very seldom are we concentrating on rotation of the hips, and it plays a really important factor, like I say, in a lot of stability of the hips and in pathologies that can come about the hip, okay? So, quick one, we're going to speak today on primarily external and internal rotation of the hip, all right? One is rotating outward, one is rotating inward, okay? We'll get into that a little bit just now. For now, let's focus on what muscles exactly are working in external rotation and what muscles are working in internal rotation. Okay, so we'll start off with external rotation. Primary external rotators of the hip. We have our piriformis muscle, okay, that muscle sitting beneath the glute max, okay, often responsible for getting tighter, usually. Not often will you find a piriformis that is lengthened, okay, usually that muscle gets quite tight, okay, clamps down on what we will call our sciatic nerve, and often you can get pain and discomfort in that region, okay. Secondly, we have our glute max. Also, one of the functions is external rotation. We also have our bicep femoris, one of the hamstring muscles, which will also cause a little bit of external rotation. And then, yes, our smaller rotators of the hip, the glema, etc., the obturators, all right, those type of things, okay? Secondly, let's move on to internal rotation of the hip, okay? We have fibers of the glute medius, okay, TFL, and then our adductor muscles, all right? Adductors picking up quite a big part of the internal rotation, okay? We have brevis, adductor longus, and the pectineus, which are causing internal rotation, all right? So those are the kind of muscles that are working primarily in those regions. And now we're going to move on to a bit of a visual representation of how rotation works, okay? So what I've got is just a normal kitchen ladle, all right? Okay, you would obviously, perfect, all right? So what we're gonna do, I'm gonna show a little demonstration here, and Dr. Starrett has done something similar in his book, Becoming a Supple Leopard, to explain how rotation works, all right? So if we put this kitchen ladle like so, this can almost represent, let's say, our either our femur, all right, or our humerus over here, connecting into the ball and socket joints up in the top of the shoulder or in the hip. For today, we'll focus on this being our femur with the head of the femur, and here we have our hip socket, okay? So if this, let's say, is the socket, this is able to rotate either way, okay? So we'll say now, if I can rotate this outward, that would be in external rotation. Or if I had to rotate this inward, that would be internal rotation. Okay, so external, internal. Now, why is it important that the arm can move in those two directions? All right, so I'm going to bring up this towel over here. Okay, so when there is no rotation, there's almost slack in what we will call this our joint capsule, okay? And it's, yeah, the connective tissue surrounding the head of the femur in this case, all right? You've got connective tissue there, ligaments, etc. We'll call it the joint capsule, all right? When there's no rotation, there's almost slack in this joint. However, as soon as I rotate, okay, I kind of pick up that slack, and there's less room for movement. Okay, that connective tissue winds up and creates stability in that joint. So again, no rotation, there's quite a bit of slack in there. I pick up that slack as soon as I rotate, and there's less opportunity for excess movement. All right, so basically what I'm trying to get at is rotation causes stability in our ball and socket joints. All right, hence maybe you've heard your CrossFit coaches or any other coach saying when you do a back squat to rotate those feet outward to create some form of rotation so that your glutes switch on and so that you can tighten up that hip capsule and be in a secure position. Or in a push-up, you are instructed to rotate, try and screw those hands in to create tension up in the joint to secure that joint when moving through a motion. Okay, so common cues given by coaches, and yeah, helps us with our stability. Moving on to our next bit, we need to talk about why certain rotations are important. So both internal and external rotation are important. Okay, internal rotation quite important for our gait cycle. All right, external rotation quite important more so for our lifting, but also for single leg balance, etc. When we deadlift, when we squat, when we're doing all of those movements, generally external rotation is the preferred form of rotation for stability. Okay, think of it, if we screwing those feet outward, all right, our glutes turn on, that hip capsule, we pick up that slack, that joint is nice and secure, and we are able to move through our motions nice and securely with good abdominal bracing, and you're generally in quite a safe position. Okay, so that rotation picks up that capsular slack and is a safer position going into movements. Next, we need to speak about the problems that can arise when we have a lack of external rotation or a lack of internal rotation. Okay, a lack of external rotation meaning that you are excessively rotated backward, okay, or a lack of internal rotation meaning that you are excessively rotated inward. Okay, so common issues that arise with a lack of either one. So I spoke about it earlier, a tight piriformis, okay, meaning that you generally, your feet are rotated outward and you are quite tight in that piriformis, leading to piriformis syndrome, sore lower back, sore upper back, sore knees, sore ankles. Then if we are talking about internal rotation, you are rotated inward. Okay, think of knock knees, your knees are caving inward. All right, problems with knees, gait cycle, ankles, and also front of the hips, impingement, things like that. All right, so how do we establish whether we have a lack of external or internal rotation? So there's a couple ways to address it. If you can find a healthcare practitioner who can assess you, that is the go-to. However, especially now in a lockdown situation when you are unable to go to a practitioner, you can perform a couple self-tests just to find out where exactly you are. Okay, so we're going to go through that now. First up, what we're going to do is just lying flat on a mat, all right? Straighten one leg. I'm just going to demonstrate on my right. Okay, we take one leg up. If I rotate this way, all right, I am testing my external rotation. If I rotate that way, I am testing my internal. So watching on the camera might be a little bit different on your way, but if I rotate there, external. If I rotate here, internal. Okay, this is active range of motion, guys. Another way to test it, lying nice and flat on your tummy. We can bring one leg up here. I test internal and external. Again, I test internal and external. So I know for myself that doesn't feel too bad. However, that is a little bit sticky. So in my situation, I could probably do a little bit of work for my internal rotation, okay? Being my front of my hip TFL, glute medius, but also into my adductors, okay? Working through some range to restore some internal rotation, okay? So once we've established where exactly we are limited, we can go about addressing these issues. So what I'm going to do, we've got ourselves foam roller, kind of softball, okay? First up, we are going to address restoring some external rotation, okay? Getting that softball into that piriformis structure, those deep external rotators, okay, into the bicep fem, and then moving on to the front of the hip where we can do glute medius, anterior fibers, adductor, and TFL. Okay, so keep watch. Let's go. So, taking this ball, I can lie nice and flat on my back. Okay. I bring this leg up into some external rotation, and I'm just stretching that out. Okay, this lengthens our piriformis. Just doing some work into there. Okay, stretch up nicely. Good. Okay, so working on that piriformis, you can also do a seated version where I get that into that position there, and I'm working through that position. All right. Okay. Now that we've done a little bit of rolling, I can also do a nice stretch. So I'll show you in two different angles, lying nice and flat. Up here, there, and rotate. Okay, so I'm up there, I put my one hand on my knee, other hand on the ankle, I'm rotating into external rotation. Okay, there, and I just pull in over here. Good. And I can hold here 20 to 30 seconds. I'll show a different angle. From here, one leg up, hand on the knee, hand on the ankle, rotate and slightly pull inward. Hold. 20 to 30 seconds. All right. So there we have our external rotation reset. Now we're going to go through an internal rotation reset. Okay, from here, I'll work my adductor. So roll out at 45. I can come forward and I can get into that adductor region. Okay, rolling on the side. Right, different angle here. Adductor, and I'm looking to work all the way up into the top of that adductor. I can add some flexion and extension of the leg, of the knee. Okay, I can come into the front of my hip. Okay, TFL. Anterior fibers of the glute medius. Alright. Okay. I can work again 20 to 30 seconds there. Guys, if you want to do an adductor stretch, whichever of your adductor stretches you prefer, you can do so. Alright, I'll show you one now, and then we're going to move on to our last trick for this rotation of the hip. So, adductor stretch. Alright, my favorite one. If I've been working on my right, I'm going to put this one leg out. Okay, already I can feel a little bit of a stretch. From there, I'm just looking to sit my hips back. Alright, getting a really nice pull on my adductor muscles, and I can come all the way through and sit all the way back. And all the way through and all the way back. Alright, you can play around 20 to 30 seconds there, couple rounds of that. Alright, so that is our releasing and our stretching aspect. Now we need to focus on some rotation from one side to another side. Quite a prominent figure, Dr. Andrea Spina. He speaks about controlled articular rotations. or capsular articular rotations, okay? Commonly known as CARs, all right? That is the rotation in a controlled and isometric manner through some range. Okay, so I'm going to show you that now, just for internal and external rotation. Okay, seated in this position here, you can have your hands on the floor. All right, and I'm just looking to drop into each position. So as I move, here I will be in some internal rotation, here I'll be in external, and then I swap. Okay, again, internal, external, and I can just move between the two. All right, now if you're a little bit more confident, you can pop those hands out. All right, and as you get to the bottom here, try and push into the ground, push into this mat, external, internal, get some tension in there, and you can rotate. Push down into the mat. Okay, this is that isometric base that we're talking about. And rotate. Push, push, push. And rotate. Okay. So, controlled articular rotations. As you get to that end range, you can bring in that isometric aspect. And what that is doing is working that capsule of ligaments, connective tissue up in the hip, shoulder, wherever you might be focusing on. So guys, if you want to do some extra research on that, Dr. Spina, okay, he speaks of CARs, all right, go research that. Hip CARs, shoulder CARs, wrist CARs, thoracic CARs, really, really awesome bit of work. But for today's video, with us focusing on restoring rotation of the hip, that is a really nice drill just to open up those structures. Okay, so thank you so much today, guys. Again, go follow me on YouTube, all right, Dane Smith Corrective Training, for some longer content, and I will be seeing you again soon. Cheers.